This is Lingby Village, and it's a charming little place. I've drove through it many a time, but the first time I've stopped. And it's about 9 miles northwest of Nottingham. And the name's been interpreted as signifying the dwelling place by the Leen. And the River Leen is about 10 miles in length and flows into the Trent. And that derives its name from an Anglo-Saxon word. And the Leen had great importance during the Middle Ages because its waters fed and supplied the two great monasteries of Newstead and Lenton and the Castle of Nottingham. And up until 1853 there was a thriving knitting industry in the village, a target in 1812 to the Luddite frame wreckers. Now the Luddites were a group who opposed technological advancements, particularly those that displaced workers. And allegedly these mills were the scene of child labour in the past. I read that one such building slept around 36 children in its roof space, but I'll get back to this subject in a bit. The village is quite remarkable. It's got twin crosses, British old sandstone houses, a holy well, and its main street is flanked by a pair of long-standing sandstone channels, oddly named Linby docks. Now, despite the naval-sounding name, the docks are a long way from the coast and 15 miles from a navigable river. And each one contains nothing but a shallow streamlet, and nobody seems sure of the age. They may have once been used to contain water for driving water mills or possibly preventing flooding, or possibly even dipping sheep, who knows. But definitely not shipping. Now there were water-powered mills existing along the River Leen, including Linby, since at least the 13th century, possibly earlier, which may point to the start of the use of these docks. But sadly this didn't stop the famous Nazi broadcaster nicknamed Lord Haha from broadcasting specific warnings to Britain from Hamburg that the docks at Linby would be targeted in an air raid. Apparently, having seen Linby docks marked on a map, the intelligence sources of Nazis believed them to be strategically important and possibly crucial to the war effort, rather than a quaint historic little village. And the Nazis did attempt to bomb Linby, but it was a failure. The devices fell in a nearby field. From earliest Christian times, the cross has been looked upon as a very sacred symbol and has been used numerous and widespread. And probably before many of our most ancient churches were built, the chosen preaching site was marked by a cross, so the people knew where to hear the gospel from the lips of the travelling missionaries at the time. These church sites were dedicated by the sign of the consecrated cross. Markets were enriched and consecrated to remind business folk constantly of their religion. And then you've got the wayside crosses in the countryside, recalling the thoughts of travellers to the higher planes. And in many other ways, the cross entered into medieval life, always associated with sacred matters. So it's little wonder that it would come to be looked upon with reverence, and when its sign was set on like a boundary mark, it was regarded as an awful sin to remove it. Now Linby has an upper and a lower cross, and they both appear to have been boundary crosses, used in marking the area of the Sherwood Forest. Now the upper cross here at the west end of the village, I think is the older. Its original shaft having been destroyed in 1564, and the modern restoration set up in 1869, and it's unusually situated as it covers an ancient spring. Some think it's a holy well, and the spring arises here and seems to flow to the lower cross. The fine base is very ancient, and it's seven-sided with 7 steps, and some think it's seven-sided is unique and may have some kind of mystic meaning. Now this cross used to be decorated on May Day, and the maypole stands close to it, and it's on square steps dated from around 1660, King Charles II's reign I think, and it was set up instead of the older one when that was damaged. Now during the last quarter of the 18th century The cotton industry flourished in Nottingham, and in 1784 James Watt set up in the Castle Mill. Now, labour in these mills and many others throughout the country was found by a system of indenture, which was little better than slavery, really. To be indentured is to be forced to work by some kind of contract. And it started out as a word for a contract between master and apprentice. And this seemed to fall on children who were left stranded in workhouses or who otherwise became chargeable to the parish. And they were apprenticed to these factories. And the treatment meted out to them was revolting. Apparently, the registers of Linby contain frequent references to the death of a London boy. And the fact that 163 children lie buried in Linby churchyard, if true, is a strong comment on the horrors of a system which came to an end in 1834. After the Norman conquest, William Peveril was made Lord of Nottingham by William the Conqueror, and he was given lands, part of which was the village of Lingby. Now, the present church of St Michael was built in the 12th century, possibly on the site of a church hinted at in the Domesday Book, and there are traces of Norman work on the north and east walls. Oh, is this a leopard's squint? Now, here inside the porch, there's stone benches, and above the doors a 12th century tympanum. Right, here we are playing church roulette again. Is it open? Is it not? Sadly not. Now, in the 16th century, the porch was moved to the one with your left, the north side of the church, and the 14th century priest door in the chancel was blocked up. Yeah, you can see where the porch roof was. Yeah, there's quite a few gravestones I can't read, but I can't see any with children's names on, like the ones from the workhouses. But I suppose it'd be unmarked graves anyway, wouldn't they? Now, going back to these child labour reports, I found another article which says the contrary to what I've mentioned earlier. It states that these stories of the hardships the child slaves endured, alleging poor nourishment, brutal treatment and excessive workloads, could be nothing further from the truth. And this is according to evidence produced at the Parliamentary Select Committee in 1815. And it details the education they received. But only out of 244 children under the age of 18, only 17 could read or write. Now, the owners of these mills were powerful men, so they could easily influence Parliament, I reckon. And 17 isn't very many at all, is it? And it also says that there were only 44 entries in Linby and Papawick burial registers relating to the burial of London boys. And it also states that many of them were actually young adults. The oldest was 23 when he died. As if this makes a difference. I mean, 23 is very young, isn't it? And they've been there a long while, I suppose. On a high from this report, some of the apprentices continued to live in the neighbourhood long after the mills were closed, which is a positive. I didn't find this report very convincing. What do you think?